welcome to another combo video of Age of Ascension. I am Brian, the Keyforge of Colorado, here with Crystal Hive, and just wanted to bring to you a new layout, so check that out for this video. Let me know what you think. Spent a lot of time tweaking some free themes. Don't want to claim that I did this all by myself, definitely did not, but figured bring a fresh look to everyone, and also make this look a little more professional, like I spend as much time on it as I actually do. But the focus of today's video, I'm going to be focusing on some Dis and Sanctum combos. I don't have a ton of decks with Sanctum, so trying to get those combos, had to just dig for cards and just ask some local players. Most of them also don't have very good very many Sanctum decks, so bear with me that that's a little light, but I do have some bonus combos at the end for to make up for that. So without further ado, let's just hop into some of the cool Dis combos. Pause that for a second. I'm also going to just make the statement that combos and synergies, people have been arguing about the terminology of, oh, this is just a synergy, this isn't a combo. There are some inter-house combos that I have listed here. I'm not focusing on just inter-house combos. I'm focusing on cool lines of play that seem powerful or fun. Whether you call that a synergy or a combo, I don't care. I'm calling them combos. If you call them synergies, we're talking about the same thing. Now, without further ado, this is one I found while I was playing with a local guy at a game store this past weekend. So all it requires is one of the Yerks. Doesn't matter if it's Yerk, Old Yerk, or Ancient Yerk. Hopefully you can read this. I hope I made the image large enough. But when you play them, they require you to discard a number of cards. 1, 2, and 3 respectively. And then in that intermediary arrow area, the cards you discard, you're going to look for an out of house Dis creature. So anything that's not house Dis, or potentially a creature that you can't play. Maybe it's a creature you've played before Yerk, Old Yerk, and you're just discarding hands. Whatever. You just need to have a creature in your discard pile, because then you follow the Yerk play with Exhume. Seems very straightforward. You can get some crazy plays out of this that your opponent doesn't necessarily see. You can discard like a Rani wrist clocks, and your your opponent's sitting at 7 amber, so you steal 2 amber out of nowhere in the middle of a dis turn after discarding cards. So this one's a really cool surprise tactic. Lets you do some house cheating potentially. Also lets you thin your hand. So really cool combo that I've not been able to use. I do have a couple decks that could, but in a game I've never actually been able to make this work, but it does seem like it could be pretty strong. In terms of a combo that I have used, we're going to go to my buddy the Dust Imp. I have a lot of decks this set with Dust Imp. You'll see a whole bunch of arrows just pointing at him. That's because the first combo that one of my decks mainly operates with is Bloodshard Imp. Excuse me. After a creature reaps, its controller must sacrifice it. Mind the yawns, it's almost 11 o'clock. It was a 12-hour day at work. Recording this because I want to get this video out, so bear with me. But anyway, sorry, Bloodshard Imp, after a creature reaps, its controller must sacrifice it. Plays perfectly in the Dust Imp because when it's destroyed, you gain 2 amber. So if you have a Bloodshard Imp on the board, or even if your opponent has one on it, because it's not specific to the player, it just states after a creature reaps. You reap with Dust Imp, gain 1 amber from the reap, then you must sacrifice it, so then you trigger the destroyed effect. So on a reap, your Dust Imp's getting you 3 amber. I have a deck with 3 Dust Imps. I'm getting 9 amber just from 3 reaps. That's pretty bonkers. There's not a lot that can do to close out a game really fast, but it does get amber really quickly. Other ways to abuse this destroyed effect from Dust Imp are creatures like Scullion. So on play, sacrifice a friendly creature, which again, sacrifice, triggers all destroyed effects, and then places a creature in the discard pile, so you'd still get 2 Aember. Ortanu's Binding, deal 2 damage to a friendly creature. So Dis has a lot of ways to benefit you by hurting your board. So look for some really interesting non-linear lines of play when you're playing Dis in this set. And maybe you could revisit some Call of the Archons decks and see some other interesting non-linear lines of play that may seem suboptimal at the time you play it, but might actually help you more in the long run. Along the lines of hurting yourself to benefit your gameplay, I call this combo the Anguishing Dreams, because, you know, I'm super creative and I just pinch the 2 words together. But it takes Anguish, the creature, power 6. For each damage on Anguish, your opponent's keys cost +1. Oh, here I am with yawning again. Sorry, guys. And then it pairs it with the Lash of Broken Dreams. So this is a combo to stall your opponent's ability to forge keys. Just with the Lash, you're giving it +3. Let's say you manage to get Anguish up to 5 damage, and your opponent's not able to do damage to him, or they're not able to get him off the board. Your opponent's looking at +8 to every key. That puts their key cost at 14, without any other effects, just from these 2 cards. So if you compare some stealing, some more key manipulation, just some board manipulation and board control, you can really slow your opponent down. They're looking at, what is that, 2 1/3 keys to forge, or usual costs to just forge 1 key at this point. Ways to make sure that you get damage on Anguish, there are way too many. I just named or mentioned a couple. So there's Ortanu's Binding, put 2 damage on Anguish, increases key cost by 2. Then you've got Flamethrower, so you can deal 1 damage to a creature with 1 splash. If you got Anguish on a flank, it just does 1 damage to him and then his 1 neighbor. You pair that with the Dust Imp next to him. You might potentially also kill that Dust Imp, and you're gaining Aember while you're setting your opponent's key cost up. So there's some cool plays you can do with Anguish to stall your opponent's ability to forge keys quickly, while also setting up some interesting lines of play in House Dis. Again, just really using the mechanic of hurting yourself, quote-unquote hurting, to benefit your long game. But let's go ahead and hop over to... I only have 2 for Sanctum. This one uses Anahita the Traitor. Again, if you don't pronounce these cards the same way, whatever. There's no phonetics on it. I think I'm pronouncing it okay. I like to think my English skills are somewhat above average. Anahita the Traitor. On Reap, you give control to a friendly artifact. Yawning and stumbling on my words after I just talked about my English prowess. Oh, it's iconic. So anyway, you reap, give control of a friendly artifact to your opponent. If you do, they must give you 2 Aember. Seems really straightforward. Doesn't matter what you give them. You generally want to give them an artifact that is not beneficial to them, or one that's sitting on your side of the board that you haven't been using, or it won't really come into play. Optimally, something that's not going to hurt you by getting rid of, by giving it to your opponent. But the catch to this is then you immediately nuke it with a Gorm of Am or some other way to remove an artifact. So you reap, gain 1 Aember, give them control of one of your artifacts, so you gain 2 Aember, so you're gaining 3 Aember, and then you remove that artifact so they can't use it anyway. Man, I'm so sorry everybody, I am so tired. Hopefully my combos are making sense, but we're getting through this. Very straightforward combo. Sanctum has never been a very hard house to play. There's not a lot of tricky plays in Sanctum. They're supposed to be the honest ones. They're supposed to be the ones that in the lore world actually are like upholding order. So they're not going to do anything super sneaky. The lines of play from them are going to be fairly predictable, but they are still powerful. And this one uses Martyr's End and then Spirit's Way. So it's a way to benefit even more from a board clear. So Martyr's End, you destroy any number of friendly creatures, gain 1 amber for each creature destroyed this way. You gain a bonus amber, and it's a play effect on an action. The reason you follow this with the Spirit's Way is you're going to just wipe your board. Spirit's Way will wipe it as well. You could keep some of your weaker creatures, anything that's power 3 or lower, power 2 or lower, just to maintain some board state going into future turns. Really depends on what your opponent's board state looks like. So don't just nuke your entire board for Martyr's End. Do it tactfully. You're still going to get some amber bursts from that. At minimum, you're getting 1 just from the bonus amber. But the reason you follow with Spirit's Way is you can then clear the board. So you've gained a benefit from killing your board from Martyr's End, and then Spirit's Way is played to kill your opponent's board. Board control through the games I've played in this set is huge. It's crucial to the set mechanic, at least from the games I've played. Brobnar is super strong right now, as is Mars, because they have a lot of creatures that can manipulate the battle line, a lot of out-of-hand damage. They have a lot of ways to maintain the battle line, and that's a very strong mechanic in Age of Ascension. Call of the Archons, it wasn't as strong. Like, I was seeing decks that had 8 to 12 creatures. I think the least amount of creatures I've seen in Age of Ascension is 14. And those were huge brawlers. That was, like, I think the weakest creature in that deck was power 5. I'm going off on a tangent here, so let's I'm going to recenter here. This is just a way to gain amber before you do a potential board wipe or a mostly board wipe. Those are the combos that I personally have been able to find. If you have more combos that you want me to broadcast or share, please leave it in the comments. I'm going to pop up some of my bonus combos that I have revisiting some houses from the last video. So first and foremost, let's go into just a really fun one. It's a Shadows combo. Could also potentially be an Untamed combo. It uses both Shadows and Untamed. I call this the Marmo Swarm or the Stinging Swarm. And we'll go with the Stinging Swarm. The Marmo Swarm just adds the word the to the beginning. But, so when you're using the Sting, you have to skip your Forge a Key step. And your opponent, when they forge keys, they must pay you instead of returning the amber to the common pool. So what happens is when you have the Sting in play, you end up with a really large amber pool. And that pairs really well with Marmo Swarm. So Marmo Swarm gets +1 power for each amber in your pool. One of my decks that I took to the Master Vault Tour here in Denver, I think it was the second game of the day, had 26 amber in my pool because I got a Sting out on turn 1. And you're looking at a 28 power Marmo Swarm. Seems silly, because I'm just picturing all the amount of squirrels that it would take to get to 28 power. I would not want to go anywhere near those squirrels if there were that many. But with this, like, if you tap into some more Untamed, and I didn't go down this branch because there's a lot of things you can dive into about how you can abuse this. Maybe you can then have Brobnar and have Flex. So you exhaust your Marmo Swarm and get 14 amber because it's half of 28. Maybe you pair it with Skirmish and you just bully the board, Skirmish and into the fray. I don't know why my head's going in the Brobnar, but there are some really cool things you can do with that much power. This is just something that could set up a potential cool combo. These two cards by themselves just make something kind of cheeky, funny. But if you can start to add on to it, you can get some pretty strong mechanics going in a deck. And then the next two I have here are from Logos, because Logos is a thing. This one uses Binate Rupture. If you're playing any Age of Ascension, you are familiar with Binate Rupture. It's an alpha. When you play it, each player gains amber equal to amber in their pool. Essentially, it's just a unique way of saying you are doubling your amber and your opponent is doubling their amber. Very first thing you do on your turn, Follow that with a helper bot, which allows you to play a non-logos card. And then you follow that with a Too Much to Protect, or any other large steel card. So your opponent gains a ton of Aember. It would be ideal to play this when your opponent already has a lot of Aember. Let's say they've got 7 Aember, which doesn't seem like a ton. You just won over the Forge threshold. But Binite Rupture pushes them to 14. Then you play Too Much to Protect. You steal all but 6. So you steal 8. They'll still potentially steal or be able to forge a key, depends on what you can do to stop it. But you're not only doubling your own Aember, but you're stealing 8, gaining 1 bonus Aember from Too Much to Protect, so that's 9 at minimum, even if you had 0 Aember. It's a really strong play, and it can slingshot you into another key, potentially pushing into your 3rd key. Other ways to house are a key cheat and that kind of stuff. So this combo is really cool. You don't necessarily need a helper bot. You need some way to be able to play a card out of house. So Legacy Phase Shift, something along those lines. You might be able to do it a turn or 2 later if you can play a Miasma with a helper bot. So there's other lines of play, but it always starts with this Binite Rupture. And then this one might be controversial with the current state of chaos, we'll put it that way, around the Archimedes ruling from the European Asmodee team. Looks like a lot's going on here. It's really simple, to be honest. Archimedes. I'm not going to go into the ruling, but Archimedes' neighbors gain destroyed. Archive this card. Then you follow it with a Bouncing Death Quark. Ideally, you have a giant board. I did put this graphic up before the ruling, so I'm going to speak about the change based on the ruling very briefly. I'm still going to finish going through this combo, though. The reason you choose Bouncing Death Quark is because you can choose one target at a time, and you can kill your opponent's creatures while you're constantly only picking Archimedes' neighbors. His neighbors could be Hexpion, who archives himself and the top card of your deck when he's destroyed. Research Smoko, who would then archive himself because of Archimedes' effect, plus the top card of your deck. So, Research Smoko, when he's next to Archimedes, basically becomes Hexpion. So, just to think about different ways of wording it, but they essentially do the same thing when they're next to Hexpion. Then you've got a ZYX Researcher. On play, you archive the top card of your deck or top card of your discard pile. And Logos just has a bunch of archive mechanics in this set, tons of card draw as well. You just want to archive as many things as you can, and then you finish your turn with a Knowledge is Power. So you grab as much Aember equal to the number of cards that are in your archives. So I played, I'm trying to think, I probably will be posting it actually in the next week or so, maybe next 2 weeks. One of my live play videos, I got a Knowledge is Power turn for 6 or 7 Aember because I was archiving for the previous 2 turns. So it's a pretty cool burst of Aember from your archives, and then you're ideally archiving something you actually want, so you're setting yourself up for another huge turn like that to get a big board presence. Now, the graphic's not going to change here. Ruling on Archimedes, if you play, and this is rules as written, this is not a trying to break the rules manipulation that someone came up with. This is rules as written. Anytime a creature leaves the battle line squishes. So the moment a creature leaves the battle line and you fully resolved everything that happens when they leave the battle line, the creatures immediately move, and then you pick up where you left off. Because of that, when you play something like Unlocked Gateway, or Coward's End if everything's undamaged, any type of massive board wipe, Archimedes archives his immediate neighbors, then the battle line squishes, he archives them. Squishes, archives them. So Archimedes archives his entire battle line, and then he dies. So you don't need any of this fancy stuff with Bouncing Death Quark. You can just play a board clear, and Archimedes will do all of the archive work. These other cards like Hexpeon, Research Smoko, ZYX Researcher, they're archiving in addition to Archimedes. So you're getting extra cards in your archive to set up this Knowledge is Power. Logos has some crazy Aember Burst potential in this set, so keep an eye on them. Untamed feels a little calm, honestly, compared to some of the things Logos can do in this set. So don't let them distract you with their animals and their cool the Stinging Swarm combo that I just mentioned. Let me know if you find any other cool lines of play. I know these combos aren't super out there yet. I haven't found it. Once I start playing a lot more, hopefully life is going to calm down. I can actually get some more in-person playtesting done. I'm going to be posting some more combos, but in the meantime, help me out. Leave some combos or leave some comments with the combos that you found, and let me know if you have any questions about maybe the intricacies of these combos, ways these combos can be better, things that counter these combos, any type of advice about all that, because I also want to know what can beat my deck, so I know what to look for and how to play around it. Without further ado, this has been the Crystal Hive with Age of Ascension Combos Part 2, focusing on Dis and Sanctum with a few bonus at the end. Take care.